This story happened during the height of the COVID pandemic. Everything was shut down, pretty much any place you'd normally go to blow off steam or see people. After weeks, stuck inside with nothing to do, my dad and I were itching to get out. We wanted to feel something other than the four walls of our house and the same stale air we'd been breathing for months. So, we decided to go hiking and camping in the deep woods of North Carolina. Far from towns, far from people. We picked a remote area in the mountains, a place locals whispered about but rarely ventured into after dark. The terrain was rugged, thick with underbrush and towering trees that blocked out the sky. It was the kind of place where the silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy and watchful. We set off late in the afternoon, our packs heavy with gear, but our spirits high. The air was crisp for late April, though still cold in the shadowed hollows. My dad and I moved slow, soaking it all in. We hadn't been in the woods this deep for years. But that feeling didn't last long. As we pushed further in, the usual forest sounds started to fade away. No rustling critters, just silence. Then came the creepy smell. It was awful, like something had died right there on the trail. But it wasn't just the usual rotting wood or animal carcass smell. No, it was worse. A sickening blend of skunk, spray, and rotten fish mixed with something faintly human. It clawed at my throat, made my stomach twist, and a cold sweat broke out all over my body. My dad stopped and covered his face with his surgical mask, the same one we'd been wearing all day, trying to stay safe from the virus. But the smell didn't care. We both started coughing and gagging. Before long, we were both vomiting on the forest floor, gasping for air like we'd run a mile. "I don't know what the hell that was," my dad said, wiping his mouth. "But we shouldn't stay here." I nodded, heart pounding. The air felt almost toxic, but it wasn't just the smell. Something else was wrong. We picked up the pace, trying to put distance between us and that foul stench. But as we walked faster, I felt it, a presence. Something watching us, just out of sight, moving with us. And I caught a glimpse of movement through the trees. It was too dark, too large to be an animal I knew. Then, out of the shadows, a figure stepped into the clearing, a tall, dark shape, way too upright and massive to be anything normal. I froze. My dad grabbed my arm, and I could feel his grip tighten like he was holding on for dear life. Then it happened. A scream. A cry so raw, so guttural, it shattered the silence like a thunderclap. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was something old, something angry and wild, something that belonged to the dark woods. We didn't hesitate after that. We ran. Branches tore at our clothes and skin. Roots threatened to trip us. But we didn't stop. We tore through the dense underbrush until we burst out near the ranger station, breathless and shaking. The rangers there had heard other visitors report the same strange stench and eerie cries in the forest. They warned us to get out of the woods immediately. They didn't know what it was either, but they said it was better not to stick around. We left that night. Even now, I don't know exactly what we saw. Whatever it wasn't natural. It was a dark presence in those North Carolina woods that we were lucky to escape. Led me to tell you about the night I thought I was gonna die. But I'm warning you right now, it ain't a story for the faint-hearted. I'm talking about a night so goddamn terrifying it still eats at me. It started simple enough. My old man, a former park ranger, dragged me out into the middle of the North Carolina wilderness Pisgah National Forest. Not some easy touristy campsite either. No cell phone signal. No trails. Nothing but raw, dense woods that looked like they'd swallowed up every bit of light. We parked our rusty old van beside this creek, miles from any road, far away from anyone. Dad said it was a good spot, safe enough, if you knew the woods. if you understood the quiet and the dark. But even he was quiet that night, more than usual. He looked around like he was sensing something I couldn't see yet. We had no flashlights, no guns, just a tiny campfire flickering outside the van, spitting sparks into the black sky. We sat close, trying to keep warm, but the silence around us wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, thick, like something was waiting. Then it started. I heard heavy footsteps moving through the brush. Not a slow, cautious shuffle. No, these were loud, pounding steps that shook the ground with every goddamn stride. The thing was walking upright, on two legs big, way too big for any normal animal around here. The earth trembled beneath those steps. I swear it was massive, a hulking shadow slipping between the trees. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it'd burst. Dad and I just froze. Neither of us dared to make a sound or move. I could feel the fire's heat fading under the cold weight of whatever was out there. Then I caught sight of it, a dark, towering figure moving fast, almost gliding through the trees. And just like that, it leapt across the creek. A clean jump over at least 10 feet. No hesitation, no struggle, just pure power and speed. The shock hit me like a punch to the gut. Dad looked pale, like he'd seen some ghost. We sat there, not daring to breathe. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't something you ran into and lived to tell about. Night dragged on, but sleep was impossible. And then, just when I thought I might pass out from exhaustion, a horrible, blood-curdling scream that ripped through the woods like a banshee on the hunt. It wasn't animal noise. It wasn't anything I'd ever heard. It was raw, savage, a sound that made your blood freeze and your stomach twist. Dad grabbed my arm tight, telling me to stay put, to not even think about stepping outside. But I was burning with a mix of terror and curiosity. I couldn't just sit there and wait to be some helpless prey. So I stepped outside. The woods were a nightmare in that dark. Then something hairy brushed past me. My heart damn near stopped. I spun around fast, but whatever it was vanished back into the black. It was just a stray dog, some ragged mutt, probably as lost as we were. But in that moment, it felt like death itself had brushed my skin. Dad looked like he was ready to keel over. The scare nearly gave him a heart attack, but he didn't let it show. He kept his grip on reality, just barely. We didn't see anything else. No eyes in the darkness. No more footsteps. Nothing. But the feeling stayed with us, like something was still out there, pacing, waiting, watching our fire flicker in the night. By first light, we packed up without a word. Neither of us wanted to stay another minute in that God-forsaken place. The whole ride back, silence pressed down on us like the woods had followed us home. I still don't know what we saw. Some crazy animal. A myth come to life. I don't know. Whatever it was wild, dangerous. Something so out of place, it shook me down to my bones. That night, in the North Carolina mountains, changed me. It made me realize how small and helpless you are when the dark comes alive. It's about the raw terror of the unknown, the kind of fear that burns itself into your mind and never lets go. It happened about 3 years ago, when I was a sophomore, thinking I was tough enough to go solo camping like I was born feral. I packed up my gear and drove 3 damn hours west, deep into the North Carolina mountains. That day, snow hanging on in the shaded parts, white and crusty like dead skin, but the weather had started to break. Sun had just enough bite to make the snow melt and turn the creeks mean. That's where this whole mess started, at a pissed-off creek up near a place. Not far from the Blue Ridge Parkway, but enough off the grid that I didn't see a single soul for 2 damn days. Got there late in the afternoon. The trailhead I parked at was about 8 miles out from any paved road, and I hiked another 6 into the woods with a 50-pound pack digging into my spine. I was following a little offshoot trail that paralleled this swollen Creek White Oak branch, I think it's called. Normally, it's calm and polite, but that week, Jesus. It was snarling and choking on snowmelt like it wanted to take someone down with it. I set up camp about 100 yards off the trail, pitched my tent in a little stand of birch, close enough to the water to fall asleep to the sound of it, but not so close I'd wake up in a puddle. That first night was uneventful, cold as hell. Oh my God. My toes were frozen stubs by morning, but it was quiet. Too quiet, I tell you. Next day, I load up a day pack and head upriver, following the trail as it climbs along the bank. Maybe 3 miles in, I get to this narrow spot where the creek bottlenecks through a tangle of fallen logs and boulders, a real mess of white water crashing and screaming. I remember stopping there to sip water and rest my knees. That's when I saw it. I thought it was a person. There was something in the current, jammed under the logs, pale limbs, a head maybe. Just a shape, distorted by the water and foam. My gut dropped like I'd swallowed a rock. It looked like someone had gotten swept down and pinned. No movement, just the current battering the body. I froze solid, heart jackhammering, breath tight. I stared, long, trying to convince myself I was wrong. But damn it, it looked like a human being. That's where I was. Nobody was coming to help. Cell service was a joke out there. No GPS, just me and the roar of the creek. I could have turned around, said screw it, walked back to camp, packed my gear, and called the rangers later. But instead, I scrambled down the rocks toward the water, boots slipping, hands grabbing onto roots. The air was wet and sharp as knives. Creek mist soaked through my jacket in seconds. I got close enough to kneel on a rock about 2 feet from the mess of logs. The shape under the water looked worse up close. Limbs tangled and pale, head cocked at an angle. I figured I was about to haul a corpse out of that creek. I reached in. It was so cold, I lost the feeling in my fingers almost immediately, but I pushed through, grabbed what I could, an arm, I thought. It was soft. Rubber soft. I yanked hard, expecting dead weight. What came up? A damn blow-up doll. Yeah, a full-sized blow-up doll. I just stood there holding it, dripping wet and dumbfounded, this blank plastic face staring up at me like it was the one confused. Her arms flopped like cooked noodles, hair matted with bits of leaves and creek grime. I remember saying out loud, "What in the actual fuck?" I sat her on the bank like some sick and just stared at her for a minute. My heart was still banging in my chest from the adrenaline. I was still thinking, who the hell drags a sex doll into the mountains? Was it a joke? Some backwoods bachelor party gone off the rails? A hiker with a weird fetish? Oh my God, the thing had been wedged under there probably for days, maybe longer. I left her there. Took me a while to shake it off. I kept walking upriver, but I kept thinking about her and more like a what's wrong with people out there. Next morning, I packed up at sunrise and hiked out. 6 miles back to the truck, all downhill, and drove from there. A couple weeks later, I read a post online some forum for wilderness hikers where a guy talked about finding strange things out in remote places. Broken dolls, mannequins nailed to trees said it wasn't that rare. People are strange when they think nobody's watching, he wrote.